Record floods registered in Spain, massive heat, anomaly detected in the Pacific Ocean, unprecedented, upwelling disruption in the Gulf of Panama. Extremely rare, natural phenomenon for these latitudes observed in Alaska. What lies behind all these natural anomalies exists in every human being on our planet. All the details are in today's report. United States. On the night of the 12th of October, the western coast of Alaska was affected by the remnants of Typhoon Halong, which brought hurricane-force winds with gusts of up to 170 kilometers per hour. A storm surge of record height, in some places up to 2 meters above normal, hit the Kuskokwim River Delta and settlements south of the Bering Strait. Coastal communities of indigenous people suffered the most damage. During the night, people found themselves in icy water, desperately clinging to anything that could keep them afloat. The raging flow tore at least 8 houses from their foundations. Those inside did not immediately realize where their homes had gone and tried to call for help. At first light, when the storm subsided, search and rescue operations began. People were evacuated from rooftops using helicopters. The storm disrupted electricity and sewage systems over a large area, and key roads and regional airports were also damaged. Communication with the region's coastal settlements was possible only by small aircraft or boats. In the coastal community of Kwethluk, the storm claimed the life of 1 person, and 2 are reported missing. This rare weather event illustrates the changing nature of Arctic storms. In recent years, remnants of tropical cyclones fueled by the energy of abnormally warm ocean waters have increasingly penetrated the region. For example, a powerful marine heatwave spanning approximately 8,000 kilometers from Japan to the western coast of the United States was recorded in the Pacific Ocean. In October, this zone of heated water lay directly in the path of the weakening Typhoon Halong. As a result of energy absorption, the remnants of the typhoon transformed into a powerful extratropical cyclone capable of reaching remote areas of Alaska, causing destruction and posing a threat to human life. It should be noted that, according to NOAA, over the past decade, the northern Pacific Ocean has warmed faster than any other ocean basin on the planet. Mexico. The end of an unusually intense rainy season coincided with the passage of 2 tropical storms along Mexico's western coast. As a result, starting from the 6th of October, the country experienced record rainfall. Rivers overflowed, flooding towns and villages. Landslides and floods isolated more than 300 settlements in central and eastern Mexico. As a consequence of the extreme weather, residential houses were destroyed, over 1,000 kilometers of roads were damaged, and around 180,000 people were left without electricity and communication. In some areas of Veracruz state, up to 540 millimeters of rain fell in a short period. The water level in the Cazones River reached record heights. At dawn on the 10th of October, water rapidly flooded the streets of the city of Poza Rica. No warnings about the approaching flood had been issued. Residents of low-lying neighborhoods, where the water rise exceeded 4 meters, recall hearing the roar of the approaching stream just minutes before it swept into their homes. Raging torrents carried away cars, and people sought safety by climbing onto the roofs of houses. Unfortunately, not everyone survived. Throughout the state, dozens of medical facilities were damaged. Water destroyed equipment, and medical personnel had to provide assistance to the victims in the open air. According to authorities, more than 80,000 people were affected in Puebla state. Continuous rains destroyed 7 bridges and caused damage to 16,000 buildings. Powerful and prolonged downpours triggered at least 340 landslides and mudflows in 4 states. In Querétaro, a landslide caused the death of a 6-year-old boy. In Hidalgo state, more than 300 schools and approximately 60 medical facilities were reported damaged or flooded. According to authorities, the death toll across the country reached 64, and dozens of people are reported missing. The full extent of the destruction and the final number of victims, especially in remote settlements, remains unknown. Spain. Since the 9th of October, the eastern coast of Spain has been affected by Alice, the first named storm of the season. The Murcia region was hit first. As it moved northward, Alice struck Valencia and Catalonia and then reached the Balearic Islands. Historical rainfall maxima were recorded. The heaviest rains occurred on the 11th of October. In the municipality of Carcassonne, up to 110 millimeters of rain fell in a single hour. By the 13th of October, record rainfall hit the Colombrates Islands, 325 millimeters of precipitation. In many towns, streets, basements, and the ground floors of buildings were flooded. Around 400 people had to be evacuated, and rescuers carried out hundreds of operations, helping people escape from flooded cars and homes. The region's agriculture suffered severe losses. In Valencia, over 500 hectares of rice fields were submerged, while in Murcia and Catalonia, orchards and farms were damaged. Some crops were completely lost. The transportation system in the region experienced major disruptions. Traffic on main roads, including the Mediterranean AP7 highway, was blocked, and railway service between Barcelona and Valencia was halted. On the 11th of October, Ibiza Airport temporarily closed due to flooding of the runway and terminal. On the same day, 19 flights were cancelled at Palma de Mallorca Airport. As a result of the bad weather, 18 people were affected, one of whom is in serious condition. Fortunately, there were no fatalities. Japan. On the 9th of October, Typhoon Halong struck the Izu Islands in Japan, bringing strong winds, record rainfall, and threatening waves. The greatest damage occurred on Hachijo Island, where winds reached almost 55 meters per second, with gusts up to 70 meters per second, classifying the storm as a Category 3 tropical hurricane. For the first time in the past 20 years, wind gusts exceeding 50 meters per second were recorded here. The island experienced record rainfall within a single day, setting an absolute maximum for the entire period of observations in the region. Hundreds of residents were forced to seek shelter in evacuation centers. As a result of the storm, buildings were damaged, roofs were torn off, and roads across the island were blocked by fallen trees. Most households were without water for several days due to power outages and landslide damage to key water sources. Halong paralyzed maritime traffic in the country. After the closure of Tokyo port, a massive cruise ship carrying thousands of passengers remained at sea. Its arrival had to be postponed by 2 days. On the Pacific coast in the city of Oiso, 3 fishermen were swept away by waves, one of whom died. Philippines. On the 10th of October, 2 powerful earthquakes shook the southern Philippines, a region still recovering from a devastating seismic event with a magnitude of 6.9 and several recent typhoons. The first strong tremor, with a magnitude of 7.4, occurred in the Pacific Ocean near the city of Manay. After the earthquake, authorities issued a tsunami threat. Warnings extended to coastlines within a radius of up to 300 kilometers from the epicenter. Thousands of residents in coastal areas were evacuated to higher ground. On the island of Mindanao, the tremors were felt in many towns. Cars on the streets swayed, and frightened people ran out of their homes. Cracks appeared in the walls of Davao International Airport and several other buildings. Roads and bridges were damaged, and power supply was disrupted. Students were urgently evacuated from schools. 50 children from one school were hospitalized with bruises, fainting, and dizziness. Approximately 10 hours later, the country was struck again by a strong seismic event. The magnitude of the second tremor was 6.8. The second tremor only intensified the scale of the disaster, causing new damage in already affected areas. In less than 2 days following the 2 earthquakes, more than 1,100 aftershocks were recorded in the region. The disaster claimed 8 lives and hundreds of people were injured. Azerbaijan. On the 11th of October, an eruption of the Otman Bozdag volcano, one of the most famous mud volcanoes in the world, was recorded. It is located near the city of Baku, the capital of Azerbaijan. The event lasted approximately 40 minutes, accompanied by a strong release of gas and mud. The source of the eruption was located at a depth of about 4 kilometers. According to eyewitnesses, a column of flame first rose from the crater, followed by thick smoke. Experts estimated that up to 60,000 cubic meters of mud breccia were ejected into the atmosphere. Fresh cracks appeared on the surface, and small flows of hardened clay extended outward. It should be noted that eruptions of the Ottoman Bozdag volcano have previously been rare, occurring at intervals of several decades. Over the past 9 years, however, 3 such events have already been recorded. Oceanic anomalies. Another marine heat wave formed in the northern Pacific Ocean, in the coastal waters of China and South Korea. In early October, the water temperature in this area rose by 4 to 5 degrees above normal. According to NOAA classification, this is recognized as a Category 4, extreme, marine heat wave. Over the past 2 decades, such anomalous zones of ocean surface warming have been recorded in all regions of the planet. Studies show that marine heat waves are becoming more frequent and intense. Their global average annual frequency has increased by 34%, and their duration by 17%. Marine heat waves are observed even in cold ocean regions. According to observations in the Arctic between 2007 and 2021, 11 marine heat waves were recorded, one of which lasted a record 103 days, with an anomalous temperature deviation of +4 degrees Celsius. Today, such dangerous phenomena are almost impossible to predict. They cause significant damage to ecosystems, triggering coral bleaching, mass mortality of marine organisms, and changes in the composition of local species. Another disruption of normal ocean processes was recorded in the Gulf of Panama. For at least 40 years, the seasonal upwelling system in this region had functioned stably, bringing cool, nutrient-rich waters to the surface under the influence of the northern trade winds. This process had been remarkably stable and predictable. It usually started on the 20th of January, lasted 66 days, and minimum water temperatures reached 19 degrees Celsius. However, in the year 2025, an anomalous failure occurred in the seasonal upwelling. The cooling of the coastal waters of the Gulf of Panama began with a delay of 42 days, and the minimum temperature dropped only to 23.3 degrees Celsius. At the same time, the number of cold days during the season was 82% lower compared to historical averages. This unprecedented suppression of upwelling disrupted the usual rhythm of ocean life, disturbing the natural cycles of ecosystems. Experts believe that the cause of the failure may lie in changes in wind patterns, but the exact mechanisms of this anomalous disruption remain insufficiently studied. A particularly pressing question is whether the episode of the year 2025 is an isolated case or marks the beginning of a new trend of upwelling disruptions. Ocean ecosystems function like a finely tuned clock, maintaining a fragile balance upon which the existence of life on our planet depends. But today, the world ocean faces a serious threat. Its waters are filled with a material familiar to each of us: plastic, specifically its micro and nanoparticles, formed as it breaks down under the influence of sunlight and salt water. The accumulation of these synthetic particles in the water column alters its thermal conductivity, effectively trapping excess heat in the ocean. This disrupts the natural heat exchange, intensifies overheating, and creates a dangerous feedback loop. Geodynamic activity heats the ocean, which accelerates the breakdown of plastic, and the resulting microparticles further block heat dissipation, amplifying global warming. Thus, ocean overheating is not only the cause of various thermal anomalies in the world ocean, but also a primary trigger for climate and geodynamic phenomena recorded across the planet. Analyzing the increase in climate-related disasters, it becomes clear that there is less and less time to study this key factor, and the conditions for conducting research will rapidly deteriorate. The climate will destroy laboratories, research centers, equipment, and even the very people capable of making discoveries that could determine the fate of humanity. This is why society must create conditions today that allow scientists from around the world to collaborate openly, exchange knowledge, and unite their efforts for the survival of humanity. Achieving this goal requires a stable global peace among all nations, because only under such conditions is effective counteraction to the climate crisis and its consequences possible.